Hello everybody, I am Nu-Trix the Synth guy, and today is a special video. I'm answering Joe Carter, who wrote to me about a week ago, and his question is really good because I guess we all went there when we started to do music. It's a simple question saying, how do you start and what do you buy when you start and where do you put your effort? It's a simple question, yet it is very difficult to answer because it's a very personal choice. When you make music because you want to do it. And then what do you want to do is specific to your interest and needs. So all the tools that we have today, there's so many options today. And that's the hard part. And that's the reason I do these videos, is to actually help people try to figure out what is the best thing for them. Today, I will answer by giving you my 5 best tips on spending your dollar on a kit for EDM. And keep in mind that nobody, when you listen to a song, nobody goes, is that with a real Moog or not? Is that with a real SH or is it the virtual SH 101? Nobody cares. If the song is good, we like it. If the song's not good, we skip to the next one. So in the end, just make good music. Of course, the tools are important because the tools, as we making electronic music, the tools become instruments, and then they need to be fun to play, inspiring, and easy to use when you know them. Of course, the first time you learn them, there might be, depending on the instrument you learn, there's a step in the learning curve, but as you use them often, it will become second nature, and that's the goal. You want them to be easy for you to work. So don't worry about if you don't have the latest and greatest. I started buying used gear when I started, and even today when I can, I buy used because it costs less and it still does the job. So the first one is you pick a budget and you stick to it. That's the hard part. It's easy in this industry and the reality we have today with all the tools that we have available. So the sky is the limit to how much you could spend. So make a budget and decide to live within that budget. Second thing is, what do you need? You need to have at least 5 things to make music. You need at least to have a sequencer to record and play back all the notes, something that will play drum sounds, something that will play bass sounds, something that will play leads, these could be the same, and something that will play keys or pads, polyphonic notes, so many notes at the same times. All of this could be only one solution. All of this could be many different things together. It could be software, it could be hardware, it could be a mix of the two, it could be hybrid. So there's many options, but at least you need to have these things. 3, I can say it's about the workflow. There's like 2 different aspects you need to really think about. All-in-one or separate devices. There's the option of having it all-in-one solution. All-in-one solution will have the 5 things. So a sequencer, bass, lead, pads, and drum into one solution. It could be one box hardware, or it could be an iPad or a laptop. So it could be software or hardware. Doesn't matter. It's just a question of, it's an all-in-one solution. The second option is to have many different boxes, many different devices, a beat box, a synth with a sequencer in it, or a step sequencer, another synth, a pad, a sampler. And all of these are separate devices you hook up together. Now, it's all good, and the advantage of having separate devices means you can replace one of them. You don't like the bass, you sell and you buy a new bass line, and you don't change your drum because they're separate devices. But there's more problems linked to how you're going to sync them, program them, parameter them, and you need to learn, if you have 5 boxes, you need to learn 5 ways to work, and they're from 5 different companies. So the learning curve is a lot higher. So if we go back to the first question, the question you have is basically when you're starting, I suggest, in my point of view, the easiest way to start is to have an all-in-one solution. So you need to learn one box or one software that does everything you need to be able to make music. And then as you go along and you feel that you want something more, most of these solutions can be, you can patch stuff around it. You can sync it with other devices. You can record stuff into it. You can have, you know, more. And then you build your studio, your kit gradually like that. But I suggest to start with all in one. It's probably the best solution. Number 4 is basically, do you want to go hardware or software? Now, it's a question of how you want to work, but it's also a question of how much you want to pay. Because of course, if you're looking at software, usually costs less than buying hardware. You know, for the cost of one synth, you buy a whole software that mimics many different synthesizers and drum machine and all that. So if you're starting from scratch, software might be the cheapest way to go. Of course, you would still need to buy a controller, because just a software with a mouse, it works, but it might not be as inspiring. And if you're not inspired, you might not make music. So you're probably going to have to buy a software and some type of controller that mimics the way you want to create. Either it's something like that, you know, with pads to trigger something like live, or something like this that is weird keys. They're not normal keys, but you enter notes. You can also have a pad and controller. So this is kind of a well-rounded controller. But if you're a keyboard player, you might not like the keys. So then you can have stuff like this. These are mini keys, but not everybody likes mini keys. Controllers are a big part of how you're going to be able to interact with your music. So software or hardware, that's the 4th part. To be able to combine all of this, I'll show different kits that I would suggest if you're starting from scratch. Right away, we're going to combine the 5 objects we need together, either into one box or many boxes, hardware or software, or the 2, and there's a question of cost. How much money are you willing to pay? Some will say, I've got $1,000, I want to buy stuff. Others will say, I have $100, how do I start? So it's all good. It's just a question of what is your reality. And keep in mind that you will buy other things, that's for sure, because you'll buy something right away, and then as you go along, you'll say, I would like to have this, and then you'll sell stuff and buy stuff. The only thing about software, though, is if you want to sell software, the value goes down really rapidly. Whereas if I want to sell my sequencer here, it's still worth something because it's still a device that people want to have, and it works. Let's look at the different kits. First one is the Novation Circuit. Well, Novation Circuit, what's cool about it is that it's one box. You've got a drum, basically sample playback. You put your own samples in it, and 2 synths, powerful enough. Yet, if you're not so much into synthesis because you're starting out, you don't need to learn everything because the knobs will do the job you want, and you can just create music. One box, all in one, and you hook it up to your computer, and it's also a sequencer. So if you want to add to it later on, you buy another synth, and then from the internal sequencer, you trigger the next synth. So then you create new sounds. And if you want to have a drum machine beside it, and to add up to these sounds and use this one as a sampler, then the other drum becomes the drum machine sync to that one. So it's also open to the rest of your studio for later on adding more to it. And it's a dedicated box. You turn it on, you don't have to verify, do I have the latest version of this or that? You don't need to upgrade the software. It's a dedicated box. Turn it on and it works. So that's the cool part about hardware, especially when you're starting. In this case, you just have to learn one box. Okay, next one is the Korg Electribes. There's 2 models, and that also is interesting because it shows you there's 2 different types of electronic music makers. Because there's like 2 basic core ideas of when you create. One is a synth, virtual synthesizer, the blue one, and the red one is a sampler. Some of you guys, you will love the fact that you can sample stuff and then mangle with the samples and just recreate other things, and others will prefer to do your own like bass and synth. Like me, I'm a synth guy. So these again are 2 dedicated blocks. You have a sequencer in it, you've got enough to your drums and your synth and all that. Or the other option I'm showing you is a 1 box all in one. In this case, it's the keyboard. It's a mini key, so it's a small keyboard, the JD X1, and that's a really cool device. Now, we're going up in price. We're at $700 Canadian. That is it's a one monophonic analog synth, real analog synth. Yes, Roland does that in some of their synthesizers. So the JD has an analog synth, 2 polyphonic synths, and a drum machine and sequencer of 4 tracks. So you've got what you need. You get your sequencers, you get your drums, you got 2 digital synth and 1 analog synth. It's a cool little box, and it's a keyboard. So if you're more into playing the keys than the other box we talked about, that are more pads oriented, pretty cool. So the price is, again, it's portable, it's 1 box, bring in what you want, you create music on the go. A cool little thing. Then we go higher in price. We go at the OP1 from Teenage Engineering. Again, pretty cool device, really weird, interesting, but you have access to many different type of synthesis. You've got access to many different type of sampling, and you can use it for the drums. You can sample stuff right into it. There's a microphone on it. It's a self-contained little studio, but still same logic. 1 sequencer, 4 different sounds 4 different sequences you can play. So bass, drum, lead, and pads or keys. And you've got the Akai MPC Live. Again, a 1 box, all in one, from the legacy of the MPCs. It is standalone, doesn't need a computer. It is a computer in the box. You can sample, and if you know anything about the MPC, well, that's still the same legacy running into that machine. But so this is more aimed at people who want to trigger pads. This is more for people wanting to mangle with samples. All of these are hardware all-in-one solution. Now let's go and look at the all-in-one softwares. I would really limit this to a couple, not a lot of them. I will not put Live and Cubase and Studio One and Logic, because these are DAWs. These are just massively powerful software that for a lot of people it takes more steps to learn because it does everything. When you start, I suggest you look again for something that is efficient, round, and offer you everything in a box. And I think software based, there's like 2 software that has this all-in-one solution in a simplified manner, and it's Reason from Propeller Heads. It's still today one of the easiest thing you can use to create music. It's about $400 US, so not so pricey. It runs on a laptop, even older one laptop. Now it's open to VST, so you can open up to load other things, but you've got a really cool sequencer, you've got a rack of equipment in it, you can run, modules. There's tons of synthesizers and beatbox and different synthesis right built into it. Without buying more stuff, right away it is functional. And the cool thing about it, if it looks like it's hardware. So even for somebody who doesn't know how to use the software, when you go around it, you look and it looks like if you had a box to work with. So it's easier to learn, in my view, because it looks like real devices, and you can actually turn them around and look at the cables and repatch like on hardware. So if you like the hardware feel but you can't buy it because it's too much, in this case $400 is the price of 1 device, and you've got a whole studio in a box. So the other one is Gadget. I talk often about Gadget because I'm using it on my iPad, but it exists on Mac. Now on Mac, it's $300 US. You've got the software, which is a sequencer, a mixer, and there's like 20 different synth in it. And all of them, they have a different sound and different specialties. And if you buy it on Mac, you have all of these synth as VSTs to run in the other apps. So you're actually buying just tons of synthesizers. On the iPad though, the cost is a lot less. It's like $39. You've got the core of the software, and you got the basic synths and beatbox that comes with it, which is really powerful. And then if you want to buy all the other internal samplers and synthesizers and external synth also, probably from $60 to $200. So you're going to get to the same price, $300, if you buy all of the same synthesizers to have them in the iOS version. But you can do a lot of things with about $100. If you're more into sampling and breaking down your beats than just synthesis, then Beatmaker 3 from Intua is really one thing you should look at. It's a very powerful sequencer. It's more for pad-oriented people, but again, you can play keys, you can sample stuff in, you can load the sound you want. There's a lot of editing power into this, and the cost is very affordable, $25. There's effects, and it supports also the synth and effects plugin you can run in iPad. Now, hardware solution, but separate devices, you know. If that's your case, if you want to have separate box but you want to keep the cost low, here's the options. The OP series from Teenage Engineering. These are just amazingly fun devices to play with. I have the OP12. I'll do a video about that. This is just fun to play, you know. It's just a fun little thing to compose with. It looks like a calculator and it's really cool. So this is, again, really affordable. You can buy one just for drum, one just for bass, one just for sampling, and one for synthesizers. And it's gonna cost you less than $500. You're gonna have 4 devices and they can sync together. So it's pretty fun. And the price is good. And then we have the Volcas. The Volcas are what people have been playing with a couple of years now. They sound cool. There's real analog and there's, you know, digital stuff into them. At the NAMM, they just released this week the mixer. So now you can have a Volca mixer. You can plug 3 of them into the mixer, 2 mono in for 2 synths and a stereo in for the drum. The mixer also sends electricity to power up the 3 Volcas. So it's a pretty cool little, you know, kit. But then if you look at the price, of course that's retail price at the store. You're about, you know, $1,600, but you have 4 devices. And even if I stay in the fact that I stay in the same company, Volca, means they're gonna sync together without any problem, and they have the same logic when you program them. So it's easy to switch from one to the other because you're in the same logic of design. Whereas if you switch from Roland to Korg, well, you're gonna sometimes look at where is everything, because they don't think and design their gear the same way, which is normal. You can easily find most of them used and you can get a good price for that. Now there's the boutiques from Roland. If you go boutiques, again, a drum, a synth, a bass, 3 of them, you're already at 1,500 Canadian dollars, and then you don't have a mixer. But then again, the question is how much you want to pay. Now if we look at hybrid kits, I suggest 2 of them. The hybrid kits, I would say Native Instrument machine. Again, you've got the software machine and you've got the hardware to trigger it, and you can play on the pads, and it feels like you're playing an instrument, but it's actually the software working from that device. In the controller part of the machine, there's like 6 different models. It goes from $500 to $1,000, and they have different controls and options and vision and graphics and all that, so the price go up depending on what you have. But it's a cool approach to combine the power of the computer, but you still have a, you know, tactile interface. So you can start as low as $500. So again, the price is good for $500. You've got a nice, complete, all-in-one box, but it's a mix between software and hardware. We looked before at Akai MPC Live. Now this is MPC Touch. This one runs with the computer, so you need the computer, but you don't necessarily need to look at the computer. So when you do things, you can actually do it on your screen, and this is running in parallel with the computer. So you're looking at about $800 Canadian. So it gives you an idea of what you can do. There's a lot of options, and that's a cool thing, but it's also a reason why it's hard to decide what to pick. I really believe that when you start, the easiest way to have a solution that does everything into one box, and you just make music. And as you go along, you'll find that sometimes you will want to add a synth beatbox to what you have, and, you know, just to beef it up, to bring it to what you want. That's it, guys. 5 things. The budget, stick to it. What you need, understand that you need a sequencer, a bass, a drum, a lead, and something else. Okay, you got your 5 things. Third one, are you going all-in-one? So all-in-one box or all-in-one software? I think that's the best way to go. Or not, if you don't want to go there, separate devices, then you need to learn them all, you know. Then 4, are you going hardware or software or hybrid? You know, that's the notion you need to understand. And the 5th one is choosing which kit is your best for you. That's it, guys. I hope you like what I'm doing. I hope this is actually useful. Joe, I hope this helps you choose what you want. Again, if you have any question for me, write them down. If you got any comments, write them down. Follow me on my YouTube channel, subscribe, follow me on my Facebook account, and I try to explain as much as I can stuff so that people can make more music. That's the end goal. Make more music. Cheers, guys.